Hello, this is Donovan. I am making a website for my ttrpg and text-based game Infinite Ages. This video here that you're watching is the building and creation of a character, going through steps 1 through 9. And I'm going to start you out there because I did a lot of rambling beforehand. Uh, Thanks. I'll see you guys in a minute. Here is the main part of the book. We've got the races: android, human, Kilmerians, Ceronians, and then there's an unknown class. This allows you to build out your whole background and origin. So if you guys come up with like a preset setting, say you wanted to play in a universe that's already has an IP or something along those lines that you know is very specific to what you guys like and what your taste is, then you can definitely create unknown races and things for that specific thing. It's very modular in that sense. But for our basic principles, we're just going to start with human. So if we go through here, it's going to give you a lore description. I'm not going to go over that. Attribute and improvement. So we're just going to add 1 point to 2 different ability scores. So if we go over to our main character page, and the top here, there's our header section. This is where all of your main stuff's going to go. So your name, race, profession, training, all this good stuff here. And then the rest of it's kind of extras, right? It's kind of like, okay, if I'm in combat, I'm probably going to need to know my weapon. If my armor breaks, I might need to know what my armor is, stuff like that. But most of your hit points, your armor points, armor rating, movement, all that stuff up here. And this is mainly what you're going to be looking for whenever you're playing the game. So we're going to put 2 points, and we can only put one in 2 different spots. So we're going to do that. I'm going to put one in Constitution and one in Dexterity, just to make it simple. You'll notice that there's little emblems on the side of these attributes, and they all equate to the skills that their emblem matches. So like I put one in Constitution, and that'll go for Athlete or Called Strike, Nutrition, Melee, things like that. And then I put one in Dexterity, which has got this little timepiece. So I'll add that to my bonuses whenever I use a Called Shot or a Gunning or whatever. All right. So the next thing that the race actually gives you is a movement speed, which our movement speed's 30. Then we have our age, which if you scroll down here, there's a nice secondary header that kind of gives you your personal information, whatever you want to put there. The age of humans in this setting is, or in like the main lore behind the game, is between 200 to 300 years old. So we're just going to make this guy very old. We're going to make him a 300-year-old man. He's like almost dead or dying, whatever. Vision type, he has a normal vision type. He's normal. The reason why this is important is that there's cybernetics and things in the games and enhancements that your GM can come up with and figure out, which might add or he might want to change your height or your weight or your age or whatever, and it narratively just makes sense for certain things. Each race comes with a resistance, which again you can modify what resistances you might have, but we could survive 3 rounds unprotected in space. So I'm just gonna put 3 rounds for my sake. I'm just gonna put that. And then lastly, you get to choose a skill option: medical, mechanics, science, or tech. We're going to choose, I think we're going to go with science here. So we go to the level side. There's a level and a bonus to the character sheet. So we're just going to put a 1 on the level. And again, if we had intelligence for science, then we would also add our intelligence, which is here. That's the brain, little brain guy, little brain to brain. And then that would be like 2. But right now our bonus would only be 1. Everything making sense so far, I hope. Anyways, we're going to scroll on down. We're going on to profession. This is our second part. There's a whole table here of all the professions. We're just going to pick the first one because it's simpler or easier for me to do right now. So we're an astronomer. I'm just going to copy that. Throw that over here in profession, astronomer. We get 7,500 credits, so that's really good. There's a whole lore bit on how this is a multi-era game, so you could be playing in medieval times or colonial times or wherever. And so the astronomer kind of is the same thing all throughout time, but I mean, their role changes in how they do things, right? So that's kind of what goes over in the actual lore bit of the astronomer class. The cool thing about these classes, they do come with passive skills. So what I generally do whenever I'm playing a home campaign is I'll copy all these, I'll throw them into a notepad. So like this, and I'll just put profession skills. That's how it is right now. I will be reworking the character sheets eventually to kind of harbor all these little pieces and try to make it a little bit more interactive for you. We're also thinking about doing a companion app for the TTRPG so that you could just pull this all up on your phone, and any abilities or things that you might have, you'll have track of. But each profession here is going to give you a starting credits, a passive skill, and you'll start out at level 1 as well. So for us, you have advantage on finding items using a map, and always know the direction of north with or without a compass, which is really great on some campaigns. I mean, some campaigns doesn't matter, right? But anyways, so we got that's our profession. That's all done. We're gonna move on down to training. A lot of people find this tricky. I don't know why, but your training is going to be pretty simple. It's armor rating, your initiative, and your hit points. So once you've chosen what school you want to go to, there's 6 different schools, I believe. Yeah, there's 6 different schools, and there's 4 different majors within each school. So for us, we're going to just choose one at random. We're going to do military trained. So if we start here, our school is going to give us some benefits. So first thing that the school is going to give us is an armor rating of 12 plus dex. Our dexterity is 1, so we have 13. And our initiative is 2 plus dex, which is 2, which for us is going to be 3. So our initiative is 3. And our hit points are 8 plus constitution, so we have a total hit points of 9, which I generally don't ever fill out the current, because if you have a max, you have a max, and if you're not below your max, then you wouldn't have to fill out the current. But for, just to clarify, there is a current and a max. So if you were ever to print these out and play a live game or something like that, you could do that. Then the next thing you're going to get from the military trained, which I should have looked ahead, is you're going to get an attribute bonus, and you're going to get a skill level increase. So we're going to choose infantry, which will raise our constitution from 1 to 2, right? We get an extra constitution bonus, and we get gunning for being infantry. Just go down to G and add a level. That's all we get. We get a level in gunning. The next big step is persona. So I'm going to breeze over this stuff. I'm not going to type it all out for you guys, but this is designed specifically, and if I were a player and I was really about to play a game with this character, then I would definitely go through it. But you want to think about all the potential items and all the potential characters that you've seen in media that you connect with, that you that you feel like you want to play, or that you would be excited to. If you were cast as an actor, what kind of role would you play? This is where the brainstorming phase happens, where you're like, okay, maybe I'm going to be a pirate, does this, blah, blah, blah. Then you're going to come up with a motivation for that pirate. So he's a space pirate, but he's been marooned on this weird island. Okay, so his motivation is to get off the island. His plan, his overall plan, what he wants to do with his life, his purpose. Maybe he doesn't know yet. Maybe you don't know what he wants for his character, so you could leave that blank for now. Unexpected things that happen to him. Well, we kind of already talked about that in the brainstorming process. But he's a space pirate who is now has to become a medieval pirate. He's got to deal with like a real ship and really, pulling sails and moving things around, right? So that's kind of the cool things that has changed. Unexpected thing that happens to him doesn't have to be bad necessarily. He enjoys it. The next thing is the goals. So he's got to have character goals, and we've talked about a little bit about that. Then you can kind of just give yourself a rough idea of what the empathy and personality of this character is. What are their main physical traits, right? For our pirate, he's probably ruthless and mean. Maybe he has a soft heart for kids or something, right? So we have different things like that. Then we come up with some contacts. So generally, I like to have my players come up with 3 contacts: a positive contact, a neutral contact, and a negative contact. And what that gives you is just like an immediate tie-in to the world. And then your GM can use those contacts to help you, or you can use those contacts to help yourself out of situations and kind of give you some more world knowledge and world buy-in. Then you have the description. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And that's your character persona. We're not going to go through all that stuff. There's also a couple examples too that'll run you through this stuff. We're going to skip ahead. So this is leveling up. Basic leveling up is based off of your skill levels required. So if you have 8 skill levels, meaning over here, your actual skill levels, right, in your character sheet, if they equal 8 or greater, then you're gonna level up character level wise to level 2. If that makes sense. Also, I should put this in infantry, and level right now is 1, and race is human. Forgot to put that stuff in, but we got all the stats. That's the important stuff. So so anyways, the leveling, there's a bunch of added benefits. There's a bunch of categories, but the most exciting one is probably PowerPoints. That's the one that's most useful. So we're going to go on to superpowers. We are going to choose the first one just because it's very simple and it's really easy to get into. So we go down here, we go to mind manipulation. There we go. And at level 1, you have 2 power points. So we have a total of 2. Now, if we go down here, we're going to get a little table, and I'll switch this over to single view just so we can see it a little bit more clearly. Okay, so there's this picture here, and I'll explain it to you guys. Level 0 is free, so we automatically, just because we have the mind manipulation power, we get influence. I'm typing it, but for some reason it's too small. You can resize this on your own. And then we have the option of convulse or text to speech based off of where these rockets are pointing. So if you're connected, then you can continue. If you're not connected, then you can't continue to the next thing. That makes sense. You can always go left or right, but there's only certain ways to go up, especially as you go up later, right? So hemorrhaging is the only way to get to Mindscape. Mind trick is the only way to get to shades or whatever, so on and so forth, right? The level 2 point cost power points. So level 1 costs 1 point, level 2 costs 2 points, 3, 4, so on and so forth. It's pretty self-explanatory. As long as they connect and you have the points available to buy them, then you could. So we could have convulse and text to speech right now. Now we're going to go over the powers just a little bit. We're just going to go over the actual ability within the power. So generally, they're going to have an activation cost. We have an action or 3 seconds, which is the time that an action is in this setting. The duration, which is 1 minute per power you have in mind manipulation. So what I would do here is I'd put like influence on my character sheet. I'd put influence and then parentheses on both sides and have it say if you have 4 powers or whatever, you could just put a 4 there so you know that you have 4 uses of it or whatever, or 4 minutes of it. Sorry, rather. You only have 1 use per day. Effect. You can influence someone's mind by calming or angering them. Calming someone gives the target status of calm, which is status. We'll talk about statuses later. And angering them gives them the anger status. So you can negatively or positively influence somebody. It's a little bit like inspiration or something like that in other games. Then you've got convulse, which is another power that we got. And again, we got activation cost, a duration, a range, and uses. The range for the influence is 120 feet, so on and so forth. So it all kind of makes sense. Like this is a pretty basic standard like setup. If we're in combat, we could only use one of these actions per round, right? So on and so forth. Anyways, that's character creation. Where I'm not going to add all this stuff in. You guys can look at it at your own time. Check it out. It is free on Infinite Ages. And then lastly, so once we've done our persona, we've got our superpower. Now we're just going to go jump ahead all the way down to starting gear, which is what page is that on? Starting gear 178. There we go. Equipment items. So starting equipment, these are some basic equipment items that you can just start with, depending on what age you're most relevantly close to. So if you were playing in a medieval age, then you'd start here, colonial, so on and so forth. Down here's some economy stuff, the armor stuff. Armor in the game, I'll go over that lightly, is there's 2 parts to it. There's a variation and a base. So your base is your vest, your jacket, suit, trench, full, right? And then the variation is whether it's a cloth, hardened, ballistic, sheet, composite, whatever. Okay, you'll put these things together in entirety. So whenever we're doing this, we would do, okay, so say we want a vest. So we're going to put for our base vest. And then for our variation, we got hardened leather. Okay. Okay. Now there's a hindrance to this. So hardened leather has a hindrance to called shot. And we have a resistance to photon blast or photon energy. And then our armor points increase by 6 for that. And that's what we get for this thing, right? Then we go down to our base, and our base has some stats as well. So if we go to the vest base, it's a light, and it's giving us 6 armor points. So we go up an additional 6, so we're up to 12. And this is where we're going to get our armor rating from, which is an extra +1. And then we're going to get the amount of hindrance, which is a -1. So what I would do here is just do -1. And the idea of hindrance is whenever your armor breaks, whenever you don't have any more armor points, you're still getting the armor rating increase, but you have a hindrance now for wearing broken armor. If that makes sense. So the armor is still there and it still might protect you a little bit, but it's really more of a hindrance than it's helping you at this point because it's so broken. And it's the same thing for weapons. Weapons are going to be the same thing here where we have a variation types. So you can have laser, photon, plasma, nano, kinetic, or ballistic, which for most settings, like if you're in a medieval, you're going to only use these two, right? But different settings, different things. And then you've got your weapon bases. There's a bunch of different weapon bases that you could use. And of course, you can just, you could take the stats of one and change it to a description of something other than what you have, right? So that's the weapons and armor we've gone over. Cybernetics, blah blah blah. Sorry, I'm not. This isn't for this video. And then down here we have the general goods. This is what's going to explain to you what the things are that we saw at the beginning. So whenever we go back to, I'll just move this over here for right now. Whenever we go back to the what's that? Whenever we go back to the starting equipment, so like calling horns, wood rope, if you had any questions about this stuff, it would be in the general goods, and you just have to find the age that it's in. So it starts out in space age, then it goes down to modern, so on and so forth. So for medieval, we'd have to go way down, but if we want, say, like modern or whatever, which we all should know what the modern stuff is, to be honest. So the space age is actually fine to start with. I don't know why I confused myself for that. But anyways, we have like the Omega bus. What the hell is that, right? So if you were to get that, or if your GM is giving that to you, you can always go through and look at this and see kind of like what is there or what it's for. Like a wrist sliver is a bracelet-like object that unfolds, much like a strap bracelet. However, when it's taken off, it offers communication with anyone on your contact list so long as you're on the same planet, right? And that gives you a cost and kind of an idea of what these things are doing, right? Um, Anyways, that's the basics of the book. That's the basics of character creation. Now, if we go back over to very top of this here, player's guide, and squeeze it on down. So if we look over here, we have the building a character. So we've done our race, we've done our profession, we've done our training, we've done the persona. You've chosen your power. We're assuming that our game master is going to let us have a superpower. You don't have to play this game with superpowers if you don't want to. You've selected your starting gear. Determined what skills you have. So the big thing is skills. Skills are huge, and the reasoning for skills. So at the end of Persona, you do get a secret bonus to be able to level up one of your skills. So we'd actually have 3 points, 3 skill levels at the end of everything, and also 3 attribute points. Anyways, so we only need 5 more skill levels to actually level up. It's kind of like the worst entry point is level 1 because you're so weak. You only have 9 hit points or 10 hit points maybe at the max, which I think we have 10. Let's see. Yeah, we technically should have 10 right now because we got that extra bonus from our training. Anyways, these are the skills. I'm going to go to something that's black and white, so it's a little bit more readable. Like I said, I will build a more legible version of this book or this character filler, right, character sheet at a later time. So let's go ahead and head over to the skills, which I believe are at the end of superpowers. Should be right over here. Yep, perfect. And we'll make that full screen for you guys. Zoom it out a little bit, and maybe can we add another page? And zoom it out a lot of it. There we go. Perfect. So there's 24 skills in the game, and the basic premise to skills is this leveling table. As you're playing the game, you'll roll a d20 to verify whether or not you succeed or fail in the skill that you're attempting. So say we're trying to climb a ladder very fast with a person on our back. That would require an athlete skill. It's a challenging thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll athlete with a d20. And then based on whether we succeed, depends on how difficult it is. If we're carrying a 500-pound man or if we're carrying a 30-pound baby or whatever, right? Or a dog, would be kind of the difficulty level. So it might be a difficulty of 10 or it might be a difficulty of 16 or 20 or something. As long as you succeed in that, then you gain a success. And you go to your back to your character sheet. Right here. We'll go back to our character sheet, and down here, we'll just go down and say athlete success 1, right? You just kind of keep track of it as you're playing the game. Eventually, like I said, there's going to be a companion app that'll do some of this tracking for you to keep it a little easier. You don't have to worry too much about the CR stuff. This is to make the difficulty a little bit harder if your party is like playing consistently and playing a lot, and that helps you level up a little slower, slows down that leveling up time. So you can use this with grace. Generally, what I do is just stick it at CR14. As long as you've beaten a 14 rating, then you're gaining successes, or just leave it up to the GM's discretion. If they've deemed that you've succeeded in something, add it up as a success. Um, Anyways, as you get more successes, so say we get 5 successes in athlete on our first session, well, now our climb speed is equal to your movement speed, which generally it's halved. Uh, and as you level up, you can tell there's more powerful abilities that come out later on. So if you max out athlete, your body's armor increase your armor rating by 2. It's passive abilities mixed with active abilities through your skills and through learning. So this is a classless system. Generally, you're going to find everybody from the start kind of feels weak, and then as you start growing as characters and individuals, the individuality comes out, where, oh well, the guy that's always talking is very good at business and bureaucracy, and the guy that's always shooting is very good at shooting. It's kind of a beneficial roundabout kind of way, and there's a lot of skills here that we're going to have and professions that all tie into each other, so you get this like very towards the end game of a session, you'll get this very like unique character that is highly skilled in certain things and still skilled in other things. It's a competent hero kind of basis. All right, so this is my dog. This is my dog Henry. We are officially signing off. I'm going to save you from the next rambling session that I go on. I went on a few rambling sessions. I tried not to. It's hard not to talk about the thing that you're passionate about, and I'll get better at the videos eventually. Anyways, this is me and Henry, and we are signing out. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy playing Infinite Ages.